right, so we're recording. All right, so Training Talk Tuesdays. My name is Tomas Ramirez, Positive Gains Training in Allen Park, Michigan. I have the blessing to have Amy on the podcast or just a live show today. Amy has been one of my clients for a couple of years now, and she's having an incredible fitness journey, and that's what she's here to talk about today. So Amy, again, this is mainly about you, so would you please just go ahead and just introduce yourself, just give us some background, just some personal information that you're willing to share, and then we can take it from there.
So my name is Amy. I'm 44, and in 2016, I kind of began this health journey. I probably reached close to, if not at 300 pounds. And I was 40 years old, and I realized I wasn't getting any younger. It was definitely going to be a struggle as you age to lose the weight. I mostly had, desk jobs. I wasn't very active. I had my kids young. I was like 19 and, 24.
How many kids do you have?
So I have 2 kids, and now they're, grown adults. And so yeah, it's been interesting these last 5 years how much I feel I have grown, and I feel like my kids were part of the catalyst of my health journey because I wanted to be able to be with them longer. I wanted to be able to, I didn't want to die at 60. I wanted to, if I could live to 90 or 100 and be here with them, then that's what I wanted to do.
So would you say that your family was the big motivation point for you to start the fitness journey?
It was a big motivator, but then because, when you have kids and you are overweight and you're exhausted and you're going to work and you just you don't have enough time and you couldn't do the activities you wanted to. We would go to Cedar Point, and it was like, are you going to fit on a ride? You don't know if you are. If you go to an event, you're going to fit in the chair, or if you go to a restaurant where you fit in a booth. And those are some realities that I faced, and they were like devastating because your kids don't understand why you can't be present for them. And because you yourself are miserable and you didn't, you feel hopeless. At least that's how I felt. And I knew when I turned 40 that I had to do something different. I had to. And I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to do. Fitness was not my thing. So I just started walking. I started lifting a couple pound weights. And I went on the internet. I scoured for different types of meal plans and recipes. And, of course, I've done the low fat, I've done the keto, I've done all the different things because I didn't know it was going to work for me. And
so before you get into further detail, what would you say where you want to be now with your goals, like, as far as like your looks wise, or do you feel like you still have more work to do?
I think I would like to get, as far as looks, I think I would like to have more strength. For me, I'd like to have more strength. I'd like to lift heavier weight. As far as being skinnier, I feel okay with how I am today. I do. I honestly do. And over the course of the losing of the weight, unfortunately, what a lot of people don't tell you is you have that extra loose skin. So to complete I'm not going to say complete this journey, but the next step in this journey now is to have the surgery in July, which will be the skin removal. So I think that will be kind of like a full 360 for me from where I was to where I am now. If I could go back 10 years, I think it's interesting because you think about 10 years ago when I weighed 300 pounds, I would have died to be where I'm at today. So, we always wish we want to be skinnier, we want to be this, we want to be that. So yeah, I have to be happy where I'm at today because I can do things that I never thought would be possible.
Yeah.
So
what's some of the things that you never thought you could do that you can currently do right now? Just real quick.
The fact that I can, squat, 100 and what was it, 125 pounds the other night, or I can do like a deadlift, that, and then just being able to walk, 5 miles without feeling out of breath, or even just, flights of stairs. And, not having to, worry about sitting in a chair and having those worries about, is it going to break? Is it going to hold me? Type thing. So.
I understand that. All right. So I called this episode, we didn't come up with a name. I just kind of came up with a name based on like what your main emotional focus point was to talk about today. I called it gaining weight from within. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I didn't like give any other exclusives is because I want you to kind of start to elaborate into like what was like your tipping point and like what was like your main focus that you told me yesterday that you feel like most people don't really deal with, that kind of caused you to start to gain the weight that you gained, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, no. I would say first and foremost, a lot of people have trauma that they don't deal with. And I had trauma and trauma can be versatile. Some people's trauma may be way more than what someone else has. So this is just my personal, events that had occurred to, with me, and, sexual assault, and that can cause, you think you're okay and you think you're fine, and then it comes out later in life and people don't address it. I see a therapist weekly because that's just something I have to do. And it has helped tremendously. I had to forgive, and I had to, I couldn't keep myself like a prisoner. I think part of the reason why I used food as a coping mechanism and I was binging was because I didn't want anyone to look at me, especially a man. Like I did not want, and that's how that started. It started with somebody making, like a crude comment to me, and it escalated from that. So, and from the time that the assault happened to the time that the pretrial happened, I had already gained like 35 pounds because I was using food as a coping mechanism to get through this. And shortly after that, I became, I ended up getting married, and then I became pregnant with my son, and I suffered from severe postpartum depression. And then I was really binge eating to the point where I was eating cans of frosting, and I was making, cake batters and eating them out of a bowl. I was eating cartons of ice cream, and I think about everything I ate, and I'm like, how I can't even imagine doing that today. So when we have, I feel like, at least for me, when you have trauma and you don't address it, and regardless of how insignificant you think it is, it's worth it to talk to somebody about, a licensed professional. And because you might think it's very minute, but then it ends up, people have childhood trauma, people have just all sorts of different events that have occurred in their life that are catastrophic for them. And a lot of people will use food or alcohol or drugs or whatever else. And that was what I had to do in order to really move past the fact that I can be thin again. I can still like be pretty or whatever, and not have to, like, I don't have to worry about, being assaulted. And because that's what was holding me back.
Okay. What was your activity level like back then? Like, how were you doing any type of activities, or were you just working and sit down jobs as you mentioned and just eating a whole bunch of food?
Yeah, I really didn't do any activities. I didn't go to the gym, didn't take any walks. I pretty much would go to work, come home, and just be mom. And then mom would just be like, okay, let's do homework. Let's cook dinner. And dinner was, because you're tired from working all day and you have two kids who want to eat, sometimes they were, a TV dinner, and sometimes they were, it was carry out. It's so easy to go through the drive-through. I mean, like sweet tea and McDoubles were like my go-to, and it was like, okay, kids get the chicken nuggets, and that's what we ate, or it was like spaghetti, hot dogs, things of that nature. And so that we just literally, it was 15 years of that, of not doing anything. So that's what we pretty much did and then that's what most families do. You don't have time to sit there and cook these, or at least you don't think you have the time, I should say, to cook these meals. And I have learned in this journey that the most simplistic, inexpensive food can be healthy and you can lose weight, because I don't make gourmet food. I will cook a pound of ground chicken and add some cauliflower rice to it, and that's my meal for 2 days. Because I think there's people who, I've heard the saying, people who live to eat, and then people who eat to live.
For sure, for sure. All right, so thank you for your background. Now let's take it back to like, how did your fitness journey begin? Like, let's take us back through that start of your fitness journey to where you are now.
Well, yeah. So in 2016, when I turned 40, I was miserable. I did not like myself. The most sincere people, I had been asked a couple times, like, when was I due? Like expecting a kid. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not pregnant. Or just events would happen, that I hated pictures of myself. I don't have a lot of pictures of myself with my kids.
I don't mean to cut you off, but thank you for sharing that picture, the little collage that you shared.
That was a picture that I would have burned if I could have. And
my little text was, hey, I need you to get out your comfort zone, because I know that was a big thing for you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but then I also saved clothes from that time, because sometimes I have to put them on to remind myself, or I have to look at a picture to remind myself of how far I came. Because that's one thing, when you are plus size, your brain adapts to always being in this, okay, how am I going to get, how am I going to, you always, at least for me, I always felt ashamed. I always felt like, is this going to fit? How am I going to look? Are people going to perceive me? I mean, I can go into a store now, like I can walk into a store, say like Express, and then the salesperson's going to be like, hey, how can I help you? If I walk into Express at 300 pounds, you're going to be like, you're in the wrong store, or are you buying a gift card for somebody? Like, that's just how it is. So I feel like people who are plus size are just so treated unfairly, because it really is. There's so much underlying of what is going on. It's not just because we want to eat and we want to be fat. I mean, I don't know if anyone has ever watched My 600-Pound Life, but and when you watch those shows and those people go to therapy, there's like all of this trauma that they experience, which is, it relates back to it. So I would say that I just decided I was going to go for a walk. I put a leash on my dog and we just went for a walk. And I walked until it wasn't very far, but it was a few blocks. And then I would just keep adding and adding and adding to that. And then I stopped at, I was like, okay, I got to stop at McDonald's. I stop eating the ice cream. And,
This is all in 2016. So 2016, your main focus was just to start walking.
That is walking. Absolutely. That's how I started.
Okay. When did we start to enter into like the classes and start to get more comfortable going to the gym?
I was a year later, because I did not feel like I could go into a gym. I knew I would be judged and, look at the fat chick trying to whatever. So it was 2017. And then I started to go, I went to Weapons for Weight Loss in Dearborn. And that helped me. It was like a boot camp type of, and it was intense. it really, there was people of all shapes and sizes, and it was a very small, it wasn't like a gym. It was a very small type of studio. So it was, very welcoming, taught me a lot of things, and I was very grateful. Then I went over to LA Fitness because I felt like I could go to a gym, and I'd walk in the treadmill, I would take the classes. Never really felt comfortable going into the weight section of it because I didn't know how to operate anything. So that was, and then when I found out Crunch was opening, I was elated because I could walk to Crunch. It's so close to my house. And I signed up before they opened. And in the meantime, I was, walking more. I was lifting, gradually lifting more weights, and it was eating better, and I was starting to lose weight. And so I was seeing a difference.
Can
And
you
that's,
guesstimate about like how much you lost at this point? So this was like what, 2018 when Crunch opened, somewhere around there?
well, when Crunch opened, I would say I was probably down at least 70 pounds,
70 pounds.
75 pounds, somewhere in there. I would say during the time from the time I started Crunch till now, I've gone down another, whatever it is, it's easily 25 plus, maybe even closer, to like 40 pounds. So, but not so much has it been weight loss. It's been gaining strength, gaining muscle, and gaining confidence. So there's been a lot of positive gains in this. And so, yeah, I mean, Crunch, and I'm thankful for Crunch because that's when I met you. I mean, you were, I was very grateful to have, taken your class. I don't know if it was a HIIT class or if it was the aerobic, one of the other classes, but I felt you were very welcoming. You were non-judgmental. You were very into form, and I appreciated that. And you were very easy to talk to and laid back, and I think that's what drew me to. Plus, you were, it was like you were my kid, because you were younger, and I was like, oh, it's like my son,
Shout out to Mama Bear.
So I think I just kind of like had a soft heart with that. And I think the very first time I did like a 6-week, you gave me something on an app to try. It was certain exercises to do. And I reported back to you, and I saw a difference, and I was like, okay, I like this. And then we were still going to Crunch, and then towards the end of the Crunch time, I was very appreciative of stumbling across Let's Get Fit. And that's how we stumbled across to where you are today. So.
For sure. So when we started personal training, I can't recall how much you weighed back then, but I know like your main focus, and probably still is to this day, is long life, right? So I have a triangle scheme, and one of them is long life. On one is a triangle, and you're like one of the only people who ever picked long life. Everybody else is more the body composition. They want to look some type of way, or the performance. They're trying to set personal records, or they're getting ready for a Spartan race. Okay, so why did you pick long life? Like, why was that important to you? This is like mid last year when we reopened back up in 2020.
I think because I was so, most of my family members have lived long lives. I can say my grandmother lived to 100. And why some people are like, why would you want to live to 100? I don't know. I just want to, I feel like because I had the first X amount of years of my life, or at least the time, like between, I would say 19 and, 40. So 20 years, basically. I lived, this under this dark. I mean, I'm not going to say like the entire time of being a parent was a dark cloud, but it was just I wasn't treating myself the way I should be treated. So it was very important for me to be able to live the next part of my life as the best that I could. And that was what was very important for me. I mean, yeah, do I want to be skinny? Do I want to be a size 6? Do I want to whatever? Yeah, sure. But you have to pick and choose. I mean, you can't have it all. I mean, can you have it all? Probably, but longevity was more important for me because I didn't want to pass away at 60 years old. I feel like I'm 45 this year. I mean, 60, it seems maybe like an old age to some people, but to me, it's like, it's not. It's closer than, it's closer than 20. So.
For sure. So when we went along live, can I share some information that we kind of went over? That's going to lead us into our next topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we was talking about that, and you told me a little bit about your history, and I was learning more about nutrition as I was in the Nutrition Coaching Institute, getting more knowledge about stuff like that and coaching. One of the things that I told you was that your cortisol is probably very, very high. Okay, and to lose the body fat, if your cortisol is really, really high, then your body's not going to release the body fat that you want to see because you're in a stress mode. And for ladies, when you're in a stress mode and the body doesn't feel like it can reproduce life, it's not going to give you what you want. Okay, so part of that, I remember doing your little orientation, and part of that was, let's start with something small, and that was removing coffee. So I'm sure people who are watching this now or people who's going to watch this later in the future, they probably drink coffee almost every single day or some type of stimulating drink, okay, with caffeine in it. Can you kind of reflect on what your thoughts were when I told you, let's start with removing coffee, and like, how has that benefited you?
Yeah, so that was one of the things I used as a appetite suppressor. I was drinking 24 ounces of coffee in like sitting because that filled me up and it gave me energy. And I thought it was the best thing ever. And it did. It got me through all those classes at Crunch. It got me through all those classes. It really did. But then, then burnout occurred. And then, of course, the more coffee you drink, the more cream you need, and so on and so forth. So it was like a vicious cycle. And I think I kept, I would come home for lunch and that would be what I would have. I was literally drinking like a pot of coffee a day. So we're talking like 12 cups plus. And I decided, okay, we got to cut it out. So I had to go cold turkey because I knew it was, all or none. And I successfully did that. And then I went to herbal tea and green tea. And I noticed a difference. But then I went back to coffee because I thought, okay, I've been off the tea or I've been off the coffee. I can moderate it now. I can.
Remember how long you were done with the coffee for? Then you went back to it?
It was probably almost 8 months. It was a long time. And I thought, okay, I can go back to coffee. And then I was like, nope, I went right back. I was starting to drink more and more and more of it. And because I forgot how much I liked the sensation of the caffeine and the rush and the appetite suppressant. And so I could never meet my calorie goal. I could never, ever get to 1,800, 2,000 calories because I was so full from drinking all the coffee. And so finally, I would say this January is when I really was like, okay, we have got to do this. We have got to get back on track. And I think 2020 was just a messed up year for a lot of us. So I sought out a functional medicine doctor. I got blood tests for all my minerals, and it was like a NutriVal blood test. And then I did a Dutch test, stopped the coffee. And when I stopped the coffee, again, I went back to herbal tea, I went back to green tea, and it's huge. And there's some days I forget to even have the tea and I don't need it. So I everything in my.
You started to break up. We can't hear you, Amy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go.
I will do whatever.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
You mentioned to me yesterday that when you went back to the coffee, you started to notice that you actually started to gain weight. Would you say that was relevant to the coffee, or was that just because of other things going on in your life?
I'm sure it was
Or
a
a little
huge
bit
part of it. I'm
Okay.
sure it was a big part of it, to go back to the coffee, because it was, you know, no one has 2 tablespoons of coffee cream. I mean, you have 24 ounces of coffee, you're going to be putting in, like this coffee cream, because it tastes good, and it doesn't matter if it's sugar free or whatever. So, I mean, there was other things going on too, and I mean, everyone has stressors, everyone has something always going on, and so yeah, I would say coffee is definitely been, one thing I will definitely have to keep out of my diet in order to maintain.
We wasn't going to originally talk about the Dutch test, but there is one thing that, if you don't mind, I want to kind of touch on a little bit that you shared with me, if that's okay. You did point out that your Dutch test said that your cortisol was really, really high.
Yeah, very high.
And people who drink coffee and their cortisol is already really, really high, they're just going to spike their cortisol up even more. So it kind of explains why, like, the low energy, you need the caffeine, you need all that type of stuff, and you're not seeing the results. You're actually gaining more weight in the midsection. Well, if your cortisol is really high, cortisol affects the fat cells in the midsection 4 times faster than anywhere else on the body. So it's going to multiply 4 times faster. If you're already super high cortisol, cut the coffee out. Okay. So that's my little pro tip. I'm not trying to go into all your details, but
No,
that was something that you told me, and it makes perfect sense to me personally.
absolutely.
So yeah.
For
All right.
sure.
So we're moving into our next and final phase, if you will. What is one thing that you would like to tell people, or you just feel like you want them to know? Maybe not about you, but just like that you want to share with them that you feel is important.
I think you just have to just get started. And it's easier if you have a partner or a friend or somebody, but sometimes if you do it yourself, at least for me, it proved to me that, if I really honestly thought I would always be overweight. Like, there was no way I could ever be in shape or thinner or fit or healthy or whatever, because like I said, I'm not even taking no prescription medicine. I'm off all my meds. I take supplements like vitamin D and vitamins and things like that. I don't have to take any of my prescribed medication anymore. My blood pressure is back to normal. And I think if we just have the confidence in ourselves that we can, we can do this. And I think you'd be surprised on, how much willpower we actually have when we really, really want something. And it's a long-term thing. It's not, if you're looking at something to get you done in 30 days, it's not, like, it's a lifestyle change. You have to completely change your lifestyle. I know that I can no longer have coffee. I know that there are certain foods that I'm triggered by. When I go to the grocery store, I try to avoid those aisles, or I don't even stop to look at them, because I'm going to be like, oh, just this once, and then we're all back to the beginning again. And I don't ever want to do that. I never want to have to go back. So, and it's good to have a support group. So when you join a gym, or, when you find a group that are supportive of one another, that's instrumental in it too, because, you get the motivation, you get the support, and that's what it's about. It's about motivating one another to be healthier. And I have met so many people, not only through your positive gains, through training, through Crunch, and through all the other gyms that I have been, and I'm still friends with them. And you make these lifelong friends. And honestly, the one thing too is, when you're in a gym and you feel intimidated, most people are so focused on themselves and how they think they feel or look and what they need to do, that they're not really paying attention to what anyone else is doing. So I know it's huge, is to overcome that fear. But if you can, get into a gym and just walk the treadmill, or just walk around your neighborhood, take the dog for a walk. I mean, I did yard work on Sunday, and the next thing I know, I have 17,000 steps. So it's just simple things like that. Just have to get started.
Yeah, so you don't necessarily need a gym. Just get started. Summertime is coming up, right? Just get out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yes.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell the people, Amy?
I'm very open, and I've been always very open in this journey. And there isn't any question that, and I don't think I haven't been able to answer. So if anybody ever wants to reach out to me, they're more than welcome to. And I hope that I can be somewhat of a motivator to others to get started. And if you have a goal, I know that my goal to do personal training was to leave the gym atmosphere, because that happened, pre COVID, pre-pandemic, was I wanted to do push-ups. Like I was just like, I want to do push-ups. And
Talisa, who's on with us.
So I that was what I wanted. And so today I can do push-ups. I mean, obviously, not doing 100 push-ups, but I'm doing a push-up, and that's what my goal was. And, to be able to lift weights and have energy. And so, yes, I do feel that this has all been a positive experience. It's hard work, and I know it's can be exhausting, and the food cravings can be overwhelming. But then honestly, I can say that there are some things I don't miss anymore. There's some foods that I just don't miss anymore. And if I do have them, I'm like, oh my gosh, this tastes horrible. So, it doesn't, things change. They will, and it gets better. It just takes a while. And I've been doing this for 5 years. So.
I like that. I like that you said this is a lifestyle, because people just want the quick fix. You didn't lose all that weight in one whole year, right?
Mm-mm.
So it took time, it took consistency, but the main important thing I think that you really hit on the head was you just kept with it, and you just got started. You didn't start at a gym, you just started walking the dog, and I think that's very important. So
yeah, and I just want to say, and I know I can speak for anyone who's ever trained with you, how much we appreciate your support and motivation, and you're always very non-judgmental, and that it means the world to us, because when you have no idea what you're doing. I mean, I think that I could probably walk into a gym now and probably feel a little bit, definitely a lot more confident using the gym equipment than I did a year or two ago, because and I think that's why that was also another reason why. And so I appreciate that very much.
thank you, Amy. If anybody like to challenge Amy in the wall sit contest, she's going for like 5 minutes. Feel free. Okay. Well, thank you, Amy, for joining me. Thank you for doing this. I really, really appreciate you. I hope this was very helpful to other people watching this. Connie, you're next. So get ready.
I'm excited. Absolutely.
Other than that, this is Tomas Ramirez from Positive Gains Training. Thank you guys for joining us, and I hope this was helpful. Have a good night.
Good night.